Right.
Now, live and in color.
Beautiful. So I have some questions for you.
I'm listening.
All right. Well, first of all, I've been having a tremendous experience with somatics in general, but also your program. So thanks for the work that you do. It's changed my life.
Great.
One thing that I've been having trouble, I guess, reaching is my hamstring. It's sort of the inner part of the hamstring, I'm realizing. And here, let me actually show you the position that I have most of the problem with.
All right.
I think I have a... There you go. Let me know if you can see that box.
I see the box.
Now,
it's perfectly positioned.
It's a sideways kind of tension. So if I'm forward, it's not too bad. But when I start turning to the side,
yes,
it's this inner kind of part here that I can really feel it in the knee, all the way up into kind of one of the inside sit bone areas.
Okay, take your hand and with your leg in that position, feel where the tautest position is. Stroke around, see, you're going to make sure it's not the adductors there, it's the hamstrings.
Yeah, it's right below the knee here.
All right.
And then it comes up, and I can, if I put pressure on where it, I guess, inserts in the pelvis, it gives a lot of kind of kickback. It's really, I can actually, it feels like a cord.
Okay. Have you seen the video instruction for freeing hamstrings?
Yes. I've been doing both a standing version as well as the sitting down version. And with the sitting version, I'm inverting my foot and the leg to try to get that inside position, and also I've been working with Laura Gates.
Yes.
And she showed me a pandiculation where I'm lying on my stomach and the hamstring is kind of curled up and then released.
So you bend the knee?
Yep. And really trying to get that inside, like turning the foot out again or in. But it seems like it's really hard to hit that sweet spot that I showed you right there. The only position I can find is just putting my leg up like that to really get the tension.
Well, let's check something. Stand up and hang forward. And let's identify where your fingertips are.
Hang forward?
Yeah. And let your head hang too. It looks like you're pretty good there. Your fingers touching the ground?
Yeah, they can get all the way down.
Okay, then what you're experiencing in that standing position isn't from the hamstrings being habitually tight. The hamstrings are tightening to protect something else. And my guess is it's your adductors. Because the turning of the leg induces a stretch on the adductors, and the protective response is to tighten. So I think that your hamstrings are part of protecting your adductors. Now, there's a move in Free Your Psoas. Do you have that program?
I do.
How much have you worked with slide and turn?
More so than the other movements. I think I've done a lot of that.
Well, how many?
I was in the past doing it almost every other day. Although I just saw your video for the sort of slalom move.
Yes.
And I think I wasn't really activating the psoas correctly in the slide and turn.
No, it's not for the psoas.
Okay.
It's a prep move to clear the ground, so to speak, to clear the way of contractions in the hip flexors, particularly the gluteus minimus. And that would be when you're lying on your side and the knee is coming down and the adductors when you're on your back. So it's not for the psoas. It's just to get those cleared so that you don't substitute those for the psoas muscles when you're doing walking into the floor, the exercise that follows.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get the psoas muscles, then you do walking into the floor, the one that follows. So back to the question, how many times have you done slide and turn?
Oh, total?
Yeah.
Probably done those movements at least 25 times.
Yeah, that's way more than necessary or
yeah.
for this purpose.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, to get into adductors, there's a couple of things you can do. Do you have the Magic of Somatics book?
I do.
Okay, so there's one exercise in there. It's a side lying on the floor movement, and it's a pair. One is called reaching balance.
Yeah.
And let's see, what's the other one called? It's the same position. Reaching balance is where you're lifting the top side leg, and the other one is where you're getting the inner line of the leg, of the underside leg. And that one gets into the adductors and also the obturator muscle on the underside, which is a deep, very inconvenient muscle to reach by manual means, but you can reach it easily by this move. You know the one I'm referring to?
I do. It's you sort of raise the hips off the floor and then bring them back, and it's an adductor motion.
Well, the hips can't come up off the floor. You're in the side lying. You're lying on your side. The top side leg is down on the floor in front of the straight leg.
Yeah.
The top side leg, and then by pressing the top leg down, it helps lift the underside leg up. Then you steer the leg by turning to find the position that goes into either something that's sore or deepest into the pelvis, depending on what your intention is.
Mm-hmm.
That'll enable you to get into that.
Okay, I do know that one. I was doing that one before. I'll put that one back in my routine.
Yeah, and aim to find the sweet spot.
Yeah. Okay. I was experimenting a little bit just actually yesterday. It was kind of exciting by hoisting my leg in that position and then sort of just bringing it back a little bit from the stretch and then contracting it and just like really lightly releasing it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like I don't know what I was doing, but a mini pandiculation sort of at the stretch point. And it just yesterday and today, like I'm feeling my right foot like reach the floor a lot more than it was before, and it seemed to have an effect. I was wondering is that a technique?
Yeah, in fact, I elaborated that into what I call the diamond penetration technique, otherwise known as super pandiculation.
Okay.
It's fully described in a blog entry. If you don't have that, I'll send you the link to that particular explanation.
Mm-hmm.
It goes from very simple to very elaborate. The more elaborate, the more potent. I'll send that to you.
Okay.
And then there's something else you can do for adductors, which is not published anyplace. It will be published the moment I tell it to you now. Which is, now you lie on your back with knees up, feet near your buttocks, and you let your knees separate enough to have to pull against the pull of gravity.
Okay.
While doing that, you do a pelvic rock.
Okay.
The key points are smooth out the rock and keep the weight on your feet equal, side to side and front to back.
Okay.
You rock a little bit until you feel a little change, and you let your knees go wider, and you rock some more. And you keep on rocking and widening until you're at your limit. Then you start from the beginning and push your feet a bit away from your buttocks and do the whole thing all over again. The pull in of the feet in the tightest place gets the adductor brevis, which is the shortest adductor and the most forward one. The further away from your buttocks the feet go, the longer the adductors are that are being affected. So the adductor longus and the adductor magnus, which are not forward but more toward the inner midline of the thigh. Okay. And you work with that thing, and you're doing the pelvic rocking first you'll do it in a segmented way. Then, as you know the movement, you'll be able to do it continuously.
Okay.
And you'll find yourself discovering and able to let go of adductors in that action pattern.
So the feet are together the whole time?
Yes.
And then they're coming out like a butterfly?
Exactly.
And then rocking in that motion.
Yeah, except the pelvis is doing the rocking.
Pelvis is rocking. And then the feet come out away
further away
from the body?
Yeah.
Okay. And is that pendiculating, or is that just a...
Well, it's what I call a 90-degree pandiculation.
Okay.
Not temperature, but angle.
Okay.
It's an odd thing with difficult things to let go of. If you do a movement in a direction 90 degrees to the length of the thing that's too short, you're introducing a lot of sensation through that thing that's too short by going back and forth across the tension pattern.
I see.
And so it is a pandiculation, but it's not a straight in, straight out pandiculation. It's done at 90 degrees to the contraction,
right,
and progressively spreading along the line of contraction to lengthen.
Interesting.
Yeah. You do it once, you'll get the hang of it. You'll feel how that all works.
Is that... so I've been doing some of the... I have Tom Hanna's CDs, the audio files. And some of the movements, actually a lot of them I'm finding, they're not what I've been thinking of as like the classic kind of contract release pandiculation. Mm-hmm. For instance, like the inward hip rotation movements and things like that. They seem to work, but I guess they're not classified as a pandiculation movement.
Since I don't know which ones you're referring to, I can't be specific. But Tom Hanna was a student of Moshe Feldenkrais.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the exercises that Feldenkrais devised, Tom Hanna adopted, and he taught those. And Feldenkrais was not big on pandiculation. Mm. He was into sensory awareness in movement, ATM, awareness through movement. Mm. And so some of the stuff that Tom Hanna teaches isn't pandiculation in the sense that we're coming to know it.
Yeah.
You could make it into a pandiculation. Basically, Tom Hanna was... He did a lot of workshops before he trained any of us and before his work had matured to the extent that it had matured when he trained us.
Yeah.
So it doesn't terribly surprise me that some of his stuff is sensory awareness but not pandicular.
Got it. Yeah, because I've been doing a lot of, specifically for the shoulders, and it seems like they're just like a lot of reaching kind of movements, and with the tricep kind of rhombus area, and I've been getting limited results, but I'm like, well, how do I pandiculate this area as well?
Yeah, instead of reaching, you retract first,
mm-hmm.
and then you reach, and you do a zigzag movement.
Mm-hmm.
2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, letting gravity provide the opposition to the movement that
mm-hmm.
creates the sensory feedback.
So
you can also do it lying on the side that you're reaching, and press the arm into the floor, and then ease off and reach, and then press some more, ease off and reach. That's more vigorously pandicular.
Yeah, I will try that. The last thing I want to ask is sort of in line with the hamstring. I'm finding that some of the movements I'm getting back a good range of motion, and I'm wondering if, because I come from a martial arts background, mm-hmm. I'm wondering if I want to get back into some more sort of extreme-ish ranges of motion, like getting back into like a split position and things like that. Whether you have some programs that sort of tailor more towards those like extended ranges. So instead of like, you know, the just like pandiculating on the floor, going into more of like what I showed you before, like the kind of spread out and things that can help that and develop flexibility in that aren't, you know, traditional stretching.
In a word, no. The thing is, when you stand, you activate all the balance reflexes. And And balance reflexes are conditioned, and they have priority over everything else. So it's very difficult to make a change in your coordination when you're using the old pattern.
Mm.
That's why doing it on the floor, where balance isn't an issue, is a lot more effective than doing anything standing.
Mm.
With the exception of a couple things like the hamstrings, standing pandiculation, where we're using gravity to our advantage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a tricky thing. I mean, even the fact of the hamstrings movement, you start out a little teetery front to back until you get familiar with the movement. And so you get progressively better doing and get progressively better results each time you do it.
Mm-hmm.
But you're teasing the dragon there. When you're engaging in gravity and trying to make a change in yourself.
Do you work with folks who are sort of like performance athletes who have those needs that are sort of beyond, getting rid of the, painful patterns and are more sort of like, well, I want to be able to throw a high kick or something?
No, rarely.
Okay.
Rarely. Very rarely. Usually it's people in their middle age who got pain. We clear that up. But as far as athletes, I'm not running in those circles. There's somebody in Florida who's more hooked into that, Robin Maltonfort.
Okay.
And she might have more to say about it. I don't.
Okay. Cool. Well, I'm gonna try some of these new. I guess it's the adductor then. I guess at first I thought it was the adductor. Then I sort of thought it was just the inner hamstring because it seemed to run for so long. But I'll try these new movements here. And one last thing with the shoulder stuff, I've been having great experiences sort of releasing the shoulders. Like if I laid on the floor and put my arms back, a couple of months ago, they literally kind of got stuck really high up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Now, doing I'm realizing that a lot of the problem is like this sort of tricep rhombus, maybe connection area. And I did some of the reaching movements on the Tom Hanna audios, and I got a pretty bad like pain reaction, like kind of kickback from some of them. And I guess I just pulled it too hard or something. But I'm wondering how to sort of deal with that when you get into a position that it just went too far and it kind of kicked back. Should I ease off of that for a while, or should I just go right back in there and sort of feel out with some targeted pendiculations?
Well, the answer to either one is no. Your issue when you can't get your arms to lie flat isn't there, it's in the pectoralis region. It's not letting the shoulder blade come back. And the pectoralis muscles attached to the upper arm, and when they're tight, they keep the arm in a less than fully extended position. So that'd be the place to go. What you're feeling as the other side of it was, I think, an attempt to stretch something, but it's not where you needed the release for the arms to go back all the way. And also when you want that release, it's not from that place you were touching. The rhomboids are actually between the shoulder blades going to the spine area. And that's the place, before I go there, I just lost the thought. Oh, yes. If you were wanting to bring the elbow more forward, the shoulder blades have to be able to spread in back. That means the rhomboids and trapezius muscles have to be supple. So this movement you showed me, where the kind that many people do to try to stretch things out, where they put up the elbow and they pull it. Yeah, well, what you have to do is, again, pandicularly, you've got to go into it and then slowly move out of the elbow back position and just do the zigzag pattern. And a lot of what's going to happen will be in the ribs and waist.
Yeah.
So because the things don't move in isolation. And if, say, your ribs and waist are held firmly, then by muscular recruitment or by coordination, the muscles that keep the arm in the more back position also tighten. There's just this coordination issue. So you're going to be doing an entire twist thing. And actually that movement is more directly addressed in lesson 6 of the cat stretch exercises.
Okay.
Because your arm is in that position. You've got your hand on the shoulder, and you're doing a twist that goes from your neck through your shoulders into your ribs and waist. So that'll be the place to go for that.
Is that's the one where you're kind of you're twisting from the shoulder?
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
Also keep that elbow way up lifted, because that engages your neck.
Got it.
And this is largely about the neck. Try it with and without the elbow up, and you'll feel the difference.
Got it. Okay, cool. Great.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you, Lawrence, for your help.
You want a copy of a recording of this?
Sure.
Okay. You want audio or video?
Oh, the video would be good.
Okay, so I'll upload it and give you a download link.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Do you have recommendations on where to find more sort of arm and shoulder release stuff in your programs?
Well, look, there are certain ones in the Magic of Somatics.
Mm-hmm.
And in the cat stretch exercises, lesson 3 is dealing with a downward pull of scapula through the side trunk muscles. And lesson 2 deals with the back of the shoulder. When the person's on their back and holding a knee with one hand and pushing the knee against the pull of the arm and hand, and then you let the knee win. That draws the shoulder blade forward, so it frees the back aspect. And then for the front aspect, in lesson 4, which is about twisting, there's something I call the 4-way twist, and others are calling it the wash rag, the wash rag. And that's dealing with rotation. That's a rotator cuff. And in the Magic of Somatics, there's a breathing lesson which deals with the front of the shoulder.
Okay. And I guess the pecs, too, you mentioned that most of it is there. And I traditionally had extremely tight chest from like weightlifting and things like that. What are good pec exercises?
The breathing exercise I referred to.
Okay.
Magic of Somatics.
Okay.
You'll recognize it because it involves the arm and shoulder.
Okay. Cool. Well, that's very helpful. I will start with incorporating all these into my program.
All right, then. Now, don't do too much at once. Do one thing at a time well and deeply, because otherwise you divide your attention and it becomes feeble.
Yes.
A drill has to be one-pointed.
Yes.
So I'll send you the link to the diamond penetration technique by return email, along with the link to this recording.
Excellent. Oh, are you still involved in the integral
Oh, sure.
theory world or movement?
Yes.
I was really fascinated to hear your response that Tom Hanna was I guess aware of that as well.
Oh, yeah, he was an integralist without a doubt. He did explicit lectures on the 3 viewpoints, the I, the we, and the it.
Yeah.
And so he was already onto that.
Wow. And did you pick it up through his work?
Well, the work has it inherently in it, because we're dealing with the 3 perspectives. When a person comes for assessment, I'm doing an objective, I look at their form.
Yeah.
We're doing a subjective, I'm listening to the person describe it. And then in the sessions, there's the we thing, I'm coaching, so I'm giving them communication, they're giving me communication back. So we're covering I, we, and it, the 3 viewpoints, inherently in the work.
Yeah.
And then as far as lines of development, going from the more primitive memes that Ken Wilber described,
Yeah.
all the way through the transpersonal. Tom Hanna alluded to it. And in fact, there was a story that he wrote that he published in the Somatics Journal, his own experience, in which he underwent a transcendental experience, and he described it. And it was all in the context of somatics.
That's fascinating.
So, no, he was definitely spot on into the all-quadrant model.
Yeah.
Ken Wilber took it more into the stratosphere, and Tom Hanna took it more down into the earth.
So he wrote an article about that. I'll have to look that up, but that would be interesting, just historical research-wise.
Yeah.
Right, because the soma is the interior, which nobody has access to.
It's both.
Yeah.
The first person is the interior, and the third person is the exterior. So what we call body is a third-person perspective, and what we call soma is both interior and exterior.
Yeah. Hence integral.
And it's integral. And the weird thing is that Ken Wilber wrote in Sex Ecology and Spirituality that they didn't know how people underwent the transition into centauric consciousness, vision logic.
Yeah.
The answer is somatic education.
You know, I'm interested. I would love to see more of a perspective of like Hanna somatics incorporated into their sort of like programming and all the talks and stuff that they put out. Now that you mention it, it seems like it's sort of a big missing piece, and like why not? Like why wouldn't you use that why isn't that as a healing modality more, I guess, present in their whole thing?
We have somebody on that. We got somebody who's on the board of the World Spirituality thing that, I forget what it's called, out of San Francisco.
Uh-huh.
And she's been connected with Mark Goffney.
Yeah.
And she met Ken Wilber. She did a session with Jeff Saltzman.
Okay. Who is doing that with them?
She's on the board, Mary Ann Voorhees.
Oh, okay.
And she's a certified clinical somatic education practitioner.
I think that's fascinating. I mean, I've had such a powerful experience, with it, and it's helped my meditation. Like I've been able to sit, peacefully and without discomfort and pain, and just like it really sort of did a 180 for me in my life, and I think that's something that needs to be brought to more people.
Yeah, we're working on it. You can't force feed this stuff though. They gotta want it.
Right. That's the challenge. Being a sort of really attentive discipline. That's what I've been finding too. I have hosts of friends and roommates, etc., who are having like serious issues with the body and just sort of their body mind awareness, and I'm kind of like, well, here's all these exercises, and I can even show you some of them, but I don't know, it's outside of the experience of a lot of people, and I don't think some people are ready when I tell them.
Well, part of it is people hear the word exercise, and that puts it into the category of stretching, calisthenics, yoga, Pilates, and so they regard it as they regard those other things as merely fleshly disciplines.
Yeah.
As the dimension of consciousness is essentially absent from the exercise world. So it's an interesting challenge to frame it in a way that causes people to look at it differently. And most recently, the way I'm framing it is in terms of what I call muscle movement memory. Mm-hmm. So I'm putting it into the domain of memory, which is exactly where it belongs. Consider sensory motor amnesia. Mm-hmm. So if we're looking at it in terms of memory patterns, that gives us an entree to the entire spectrum of consciousness. And it sounds to me like you haven't read much of my blog, because I have put in entries having to do with the high reaches of attention, and how basically it summarizes that the fundaments of somatic existence are attention, intention, memory, and imagination. And everything is built on that framework. The senses are built on attention, the musculature is based on intention, and memory is what allows for self-awareness and for recognition of anything. And I took it one step further. I took it a radical direction. Radical meaning root. That there is, first of all, there is no present moment. The present moment is void.
Yeah.
What we're experiencing and what the typical people call the now is merely short-term memory informed by long-term memory.
Yeah.
So the fact that you can recognize anything as what it is depends on memory. So and the nervous system has a lag between stimulus and recognition. Everything we experience is the past. Everything. There is no self in the present. It's completely unknown.
Yeah.
So that taps straight into, say, Orthodox Buddhist teaching about the essential voidness of existence.
Yeah.
Only we can bring it down to earth now. We can say, looky here, your nervous system is always behind. So what you're experiencing isn't the present, it's the past. You can't experience the present as anything. It's void.
So what is the implication of your nervous system then always being in a period of lag?
That the appearance of volition is illusory. And it goes straight to the paradox of free will.
Yeah.
See, the notion of free will, oh yeah, I have free will. I mean, I decide I want to do something, I do it. Yeah, well, why did you decide that? Yeah. It's because something's already in place. So your will wasn't really free. It was dependent on what exists in your memory. So free will, it's just a paradox. And so the whole notion of autonomy is illusory. The notion of self is illusory. It's all memory. And it's memory emanating from the void. That's the emanationist theory.
Yeah.
Is the emanationist perspective, is that the void is emanating the manifest world. That's everything is coming from nothing.
Yeah.
And is a manifestation of nothing. The world is inherently void, but given apparent substantiality by the fixation of attention. See, if your attention didn't fixate on anything, there would be nothing showing up to your attention.
Yeah.
Your attention's got to stick long enough on something for the perception to fade in and then to stimulate memory patterns.
Yeah.
So the appearance of an objective world depends upon attention becoming riveted and then sensation reporting the riveting. You see, attention, intention, memory, and imagination.
Yeah.
That's it. Everything reduces down to that all the way through the spectrum of consciousness and in all quadrants.
Wow. I like that. I'm thinking back to like those old kind of Buddhist philosophical discourses where they'll break down everything to its minute parts. I think your addition of, you know, kind of the scientific understanding of the body and the nervous system, like could add to that tradition.
Sure, yeah, because the traditions have tended to be either subjectivist in the East or objectivist in the West. And by integrating subjective and objective as two perspectives on the same thing, we get information that's unavailable through either perspective by itself. So if you get into my blog, you're going to find a host of entries which address these things. I'll leave you with the last thing, which is a piece titled, "There is no mind-body connection. There is no mind-body split." What there are is two views of the same thing. There is no mind and body.
Yeah.
Mind is the interior perspective, and the apparent body is the exterior perspective of the same thing. So when you do that, there's a relief that occurs as soon as that becomes not two. There is a relief that occurs in the person. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of stuff in there.
Yeah, no, that's great. I will dive into that as well.
All right. Well, I best go.
Okay.
I'll get this recording to you, and then where we go from there, we shall see.
All right. So greater depths and heights, right?
Greater depth, greater height, and greater span.
Greater span. Thank you, Lawrence.
All right there, Michael.
Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.